Hi, this is Derek.
And this is Carrie from the Better Conversations podcast.
When we aren't talking about money and marriage, we're listening to Stephanie O'Brien on the Moved by Purpose podcast.
You got to be willing to fail, and you got to be willing to do the hard things. Successful entrepreneurs are people who are willing to do things that other people are not willing to do, so they can then have the life that other people don't have.
Are you longing to know what your purpose is? Are you on the wrong career path? Do you feel like there must be more to life? Don't worry, there's hope. It's time to be moved by purpose. Now your host, Stephanie O'Brien.
Hey, welcome to the Moved by Purpose podcast. It is your happy host, Stephanie O'Brien. Thank you for checking in the show today. Today's guest is Jim Palmer. He's a marketing and business building expert and in-demand coach. He is the founder of the Dream Biz Academy and Dream Business Coaching and Mastermind Group. Jim is best known internationally as the Newsletter Guru and creator of No Hassle Newsletters, the ultimate done-for-you newsletter marketing program used by hundreds of clients in 9 countries. Without further delay, welcome Jim. Welcome to the show, Jim. It is an honor to have you on today.
How are you doing, Stephanie? Thanks for having me.
I am doing great. So the first question I ask every guest is to give us a background about your either work history or maybe even life events that have led you to do what you do today.
Well, my history includes a lot of many years in retail, franchise management. I helped grow a chain of stores from 14 stores to 80 stores in 18 states. I started an association in the music business, got a lot of background in marketing, and then when I was 41, I was VP of marketing for a training company, and that's when my position was eliminated. And about a year and a half later, I decided to start my own business, so I officially became an entrepreneur in October of 2001, and today run at least 6 different businesses.
Wow. So you have a lot of experience, and I'm really excited to really just get into your expertise. And I've had quite a few people say that they want to start businesses, and they're trying to come up with that idea. And a lot of people say, well, my goal is to have passive income. And I get that that's a very attractive goal, but I do think it takes some time to get there. And there's a lot of confusion about, even when I first started off, there were people that I thought I needed to get a business loan. Like, there's just many people that want to start a business have no knowledge whatsoever of business and how funding works and how to grow it and marketing and stuff. So I just got written in by someone who wanted to know, like, how do I get a loan to get real estate for a brick and mortar, and I guide people a little bit differently from that, but I would love to hear what you would say to that question for someone that doesn't even have a solid idea down yet and is already trying to go to a bank and get brick and mortar.
Well, it's completely backwards.
Okay.
I mean, how in the world are you going to walk into a bank if you don't have an ongoing business, or at least a business plan with some proof of concept? I mean, a bank just doesn't loan money because you want to become an entrepreneur. I mean, it doesn't work that way. You got to figure out what you want to do, and I understand the drive and ambition that a lot of people had to become an entrepreneur, but honestly, 80% of small businesses fail, within 5 to 8 years. And the reason for that is people completely underestimate how hard it is to start a business. And they also completely underestimate how much time it will take to get momentum and get traction. And therefore, one of the reasons you hear a lot is that they run out of money. And I think that's true. But the underlying reason they run out of money is they don't have the funds to either invest or keep it going themselves. And they have not proved the concept worthy enough for either a bank or a private lender to partner up with them.
Mm-hmm. I also think you need to have some financial literacy as well to know how money even works. It's amazing how many people are starting businesses that have no concept really of how to manage money in the first place. And that's a huge key, I think, in business and And people are like, I think they're just burned out, like, from their jobs. They're not getting paid enough, and the idea of entrepreneurship is really sexy to them, because they're like, oh, I'm going to work on my own terms and have all of this freedom and have this unlimited income potential and all of these things that are really nice in entrepreneurship, but you're right. It's really hard.
It really is. It really is. And it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Oh my goodness, it's not. And it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of, you make a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of failures. There's a lot of rejection. So you definitely need to have some thick skin if you're going to get into this game. And I started off the journey looking at all how attractive it is, and then realized, like, oh, this ain't pretty. Like, on the behind the scenes,
right.
There's a lot of unglamorous, unsexy things about entrepreneurship when you're just starting out. You're like, oh my goodness. So I love keeping it real to people. So what are some of the traits you think are, or the essentials that someone needs to have in order to, you gave the stats about 80% of them fail. What are essentials to a business success and that an entrepreneur needs to have in order to make that business successful?
You have to be willing to put the business first, and so this will be pretty unpopular with relationship coaches, but you need to put the business first, because in the first year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it takes to get the business to where it can become self-sustaining and actually produce an income, which it won't do for quite a while. For the owner, very often that business comes first. I mean, you've got new clients that want to meet with you, or prospects that you can go close, and then you also got maybe a baseball game or a ballet recital. And, I'm not saying those aren't important. They're extremely important, so maybe you better know what's up ahead, because it is an unbelievable amount of time and dedication. The people who really make it and make it well, they understand that it's both consistency and persistency that keep you going. So not only a talk with yourself, you've got a talk with your spouse or your family about what it's going to be like to start this business, because it is 100% all-consuming.
I've heard people say, like, they're working 100 hours a week, and, many people that have really honestly grown their business at fast rates, like maybe in 3 to 5 years, they're at a very high, they're getting on the Today Show and things like that. When I talk to them, when I've interviewed them, they're like, oh, well, I was working 100 hours a week. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and there's that putting the business first. It's like you pretty much had nothing else in your life except for the business.
That's right.
Yeah. That's very, very good. So it's like you've got to have that support and discipline as well. I also think time management is critical too. I think if people are used to working for somebody else and that schedule is set, maybe it's just that 9 to 5. It's not 9 to 5. When you have your own business. In the beginning, if you don't have a huge team or anything, you are doing it all. And so I think you need to be a self-starter as well, and to know how to boss yourself around and not give in to, like, oh, I want to catch the game today, or I want to do this, or I want to sleep in today. And I think those are the things that can really hold people back if they give into it that much. Because, again, they're attracted to living life on their own terms and having, like, this dream life, but they don't realize how much it takes to get there. Any other traits? Like, what are some, as far as, like, personally, like, entrepreneurial traits in a person, other than be willing to put your business first and all of that? But anything else, like if someone's disorganized, or too afraid of that unsteady income, or that, they freak out if things aren't consistent income-wise. You
need to be willing to put skin in the game and accept risk and failure, because they are both part of the deal. If you think you're going to trade a paycheck and direct deposit and vacation and health insurance and automatically just recreate that, that's usually not the case. One thing you need to understand is that when you put yourself out there and put your capital out there, there is a risk that you could lose it all. A lot of people don't really take that into account, and that's why they kind of freak out a little bit when things go bad and, their initial startup capital's gone. Where do they go for more money, and how do they hang in there? You got to be willing to fail, and you got to be willing to do the hard things. Successful entrepreneurs are people who are willing to do things that other people are not willing to do, so they can then have the life that other people don't have.
Yep, I was just thinking of that yesterday. And have you ever seen a case where, and I feel like I hear this all the time, that if I just had more money, or if I just had more time, or if I just had more resources, or whatever it is, then this would be much easier for me. I've heard a story where they have said that's not always the case, that sometimes having all of that in the beginning can be detrimental to your success. Have you seen that, where someone had a lot of money and, blew through it all and mismanaged
Well,
it?
first of all, I don't know many entrepreneurs personally, and I know hundreds. I don't know many that start out with a lot of money. I mean, that's just not the case. I don't know anybody that does that. And there's a lot to be said for being scared and hungry to get you to do the things you need to do. Not everybody likes to make cold calls or do sales calls or do speeches or do whatever it takes. And, only are you going to do those things if you're hungry, if you need food for the kids, or, your car insurance payment. I mean, there's a lot to be said for starting off in a broke situation.
I completely agree. I think it's a huge motivator. And that's kind of like that difficult, for those that are listening that have a full-time job but are also building your side business, this is kind of a tough, in-between phase to be in, because for me personally, I felt like that steady income prevented me from really hustling. I do think that it was a motivator that I couldn't stand what I was doing, and I wanted to get the heck out of there. So I did have that hustle because I wanted to be free from it. But I've also had other guests on that have said that you have to be in a comfortable place in order to produce your best work. But at the same time, this concept, which I've also seen and agree with too, is that sometimes that little pain is a motivator to get out there and do what you need to do. Because if you are comfortable, then you can coast. So have you ever seen it where if people I don't know if you've worked with people that have full-time jobs and are in that transition phase, where it seemed like they were not doing what they needed to do because they had that.
There's no question, and by the way, I have a different viewpoint on something you said. All big growth happens outside your comfort zone. So if you are comfortable, I guarantee you are impeding your growth. When you think about all the things successful people do, most of it is outside of their comfort zone. And it's the people who are willing to take that step and go out there where, you're not even sure what's going to happen because there is no blueprint, no plan, no nothing, and you go out there and it's totally frightening. Those are the people that will experience growth. They're also the people that will experience failure, but, that's what makes a business. That's what makes a successful entrepreneur. You just need a few more wins than failures. Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree that if you're clinging on to your comfort zone, you're just not going to improve or grow. You're just not.
Yep.
It's not going to happen, so you got to let go of that. You've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to get criticized, rejected, fail publicly. All these things that, it doesn't sound too exciting in the beginning, but I was just listening to a speech from Steve Jobs. I was like, wow, yeah, when they let him go from Apple, that was a major public exposure of that. And, the resilience to get through that. And I think that scares a lot of people. And you have to be willing to get over it and do it anyway.
No doubt.
So what are some other skill sets? Some people can get a little bit lost in I don't know, I need to be a really great copywriter and I need to know SEO and I need to know what, they kind of can get lost in all these details when they don't necessarily have a team to delegate that out yet and they don't have the money to delegate that out. It's what would you recommend is first things first?
First things first is go make some sales. I mean, most businesses start because you've got a skill or a talent, or maybe there's a product that you've invented, perfected, or in some way is going to be useful and have some value to the marketplace. And so it doesn't matter how great of a copywriter you are or how great you are at SEO. If you're not out there selling and bringing in money, you have no business. You have a hobby. A business has income. It has revenue. And so, for people that set up their office and get their fancy business cards with glossy finish and all these different things, if you're not out there getting your first and second and third client and bringing revenue in the door, you actually don't have a business. So I would say, all those skills are important, but the number one skill you need to have is sales. You need to go out there and sell yourself. There's nobody else that's going to do it.
And that requires getting out there, being vulnerable, getting out from behind the computer, getting in front of people, picking up the phone. All these things that sometimes people can hide out and avoid. And as long as you avoid it, I really think you're going to prevent your growth. Now, I've heard different takes on this as well, like where people say it's not if you build it, they will come. Let's say you have a service or a product that you made. Let's say you're a coach and you have like a home learning program you developed. I've heard some people say that you need to market it before you manufacture it. But then others say, well, isn't it hard to sell something you don't have made yet? So I was curious, what is your take on those two?
Well, first of all, it depends what it is. I mean, it's pretty hard. If you're selling a product, it's hard to sell the product because somebody's going to want delivery. We live in a society which has a very short attention span. People don't want to wait. It's like a microwave society, people have called it. And if it's a service or something like that, again, I think that's quite deceptive if you're out there selling something that A, doesn't exist or that you haven't built or used yourself. There's an awful lot in the coaching industry, for example, which is one of the industries that I'm involved in. There's a lot of people who hang up shingles, so to speak, and put their name out there as a coach, and all they really do is they go to seminars, read books, and buy courses, and then start to kind of regurgitate the same information. Now, information has value, but when the rubber meets the road, you want to be working with somebody that has a proven track record. So that's in the service business. If you have a product for sale, and let's say they're selling an umbrella. Let's just pick something wacky. Let's say you're out there selling umbrellas. You've never made an umbrella, and you have no experience making, or I don't know what you're selling other than the fact that mine works, it'll help you keep dry. Well, umbrellas are available everywhere, so you got to create a business. You have to put yourself out there. So for people that want to do that, Stephanie, I think it's just another, I want to really, really make sure this is going to work before I actually do it, and there is no guarantees like that.
There's no guarantees in business. I've had somebody write into me and they're like, what can you guarantee me if I work with you? And I answered I was like, well, I'm not going to guarantee you're going to be a millionaire next year. Like, there's too many variables at play here. So some people that are looking for, if I buy this course or if I work with you, I want you to guarantee that you will help me hit these numbers in my time frame. And while coaches can do the best they can to make that happen, I think people that are like, I want you to guarantee I'm not going to fail, it's just like, how can you guarantee that? You got to do the work. So some people, I think, look for a magic solution and look to the coaches or the expert to do all the work for them, when really you're responsible for getting your own results and doing the work.
It's very true.
So what are some resources that you recommend someone that's starting off, that is processing through ideas and to really get a taste of what really is entrepreneurship all about? Do you have tools or resources you highly recommend somebody using and looking into?
It's tools or resources to help you determine if you should become an entrepreneur?
Or what's involved with it, a book. Some people have mentioned E-Myth. Yeah, to help you.
E-Myth is a very good book. I wrote a book called Stop Waiting for It to Get Easier, Create Your Dream Business Now, which is made for people who can't get off the dime. So that might be a good book. I would go in and next time you're walking in your dry cleaner or the pizza shop next door or any other local businessman, go in there and ask him, when he's not busy waiting on customers, he or her, ask him what it's like being a business owner. What was the biggest surprise you had? Most people will answer the question, if I knew then what I knew now, I never would have done it. So maybe you can just talk to people who are not, obviously direct competition, and people who might be able to give you a little bit of insight. But in the end, that's just their experience too. You know what I mean? Most There are many people who go into very crowded areas, but they happen to do it better, whether it's providing better service, it's more convenient. Maybe they take an existing product or service and make it better. There's plenty of people that do that. Not everybody has to be an inventor. But you do have to make sure there's a big crowd that's waiting for the product or service you want to provide. I mean, just because you like to knit comforters doesn't mean there's a huge market for it. There could be, but you don't want to start an entire business based on the fact that you like knitting comforters.
Yes, a lot of people get really attached to their idea. There's just not a really huge market. For someone that has an idea that they're totally in love with, what would you suggest that they do to make sure it's actually a viable option and will produce a profit for them? How would they research that out?
Well, there happens to be a thing called the internet. You could do some Google searches, and you could type in a phrase that somebody might type in if they were looking for the company or product or service that you want to start, and you could automatically see how many other people are searching for that. So that would be something you can do that's kind of free and easy, you know what I mean? So there's other things. You can go to libraries and look for books where it lists associations, buying groups, things like that, figure out how many people are in a certain industry. You could drive, if it's a local business, you could drive around your town. For example, if you want to open up a pizza shop, you could drive around. You don't have to drive far. You could drive every 500 feet in most places and find another pizza shop. So that shows people like pizza, but is it oversaturated? I don't know. It depends on your town. But doing research is a big ingredient in helping you not lose your shirt.
And then knowing, is it oversaturated, or how can you do it differently than everybody else? How many coffee shops are there? How many sub shops are there? But each one has a different experience when you walk in there. And so there's a lot of things that go into making yourself stand out and how to do it a little bit differently or a little bit better than the person down the street from you. How many dry cleaners are there? That's one thing that really I'm I don't know how dry cleaners stand out. They're all just dry cleaning shirts. I guess maybe because I don't frequent dry cleaners a lot. But I'm every time I walked into them, they all just seem the same to me.
Yeah.
So I have no idea how they manage to stay afloat when there's 20 of them all in the same street. But yeah, it must work for them. Yeah, well, I appreciate it. So stop waiting for it to get easier. Is that on your website?
That's all my books are on Amazon. They're on Kindle. My latest book is called Decide: The Ultimate Success Trigger. That one's actually available in audio as well. All the other I've written 6. All the other books are paperback and Kindle versions.
Now, how long did it take you to write all of these books?
My first book took me 18 months. I wrote the last 2 books in about 60 days.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you became a pro. 6 books is really impressive. That's awesome.
Very prolific.
Yes. So how can people connect with you?
So my home base is getjimpalmer.com, www.getjimpalmer.com. From there, they can link up to my video show, my podcast. They can find out information about my books and my live events and my training and things like that. So getjimpalmer.com.
Thank you again, Jim. I really appreciate you sharing your expertise. I love the title of your books. I definitely recommend that you all check out his books and connect with him. Thank you again.
My pleasure, Stephanie. Take care. All big growth happens outside your comfort zone. So if you are comfortable, I guarantee you are impeding your growth. And it's the people who are willing to take that step and go out there. It's totally frightening. That's what makes a business. That's what makes a successful entrepreneur. You just need a few more wins than failures.
So there you have it. That was Jim Palmer. He definitely has some expertise and wisdom with building a successful business. There are some things that I agree with and some things that most of what he talked about I agree with. The only thing that I will say is that you don't have to sacrifice family and relationships and your health or other things. I believe in putting God first and getting your priorities in order. I don't think that putting your business above all is the right thing to do, although if you have a different belief system, then of course, by all means, knock yourself out. So I did just want to touch base on that. I do realize that a business takes a lot of time, dedication, discipline, focus, all of that. And it does need to be a priority, but it doesn't have to be the priority. I believe the call in your life, if you are called to start a business or ministry, that there is a grace, an empowering grace to keep first things first and put first things first and to discern what are the first things in your life. So, yeah, be intentional about what you want your life to look like, and then make sure that you are dedicated to what that is and what you want. So that is my piece on that. I just, don't want to encourage workaholism or anything of that. So I just want to be clear on that. All right. If you haven't come on over to movedbypurpose.net, make sure that you get exclusive access to discounts, pilot programs, half off discounts for coaching. All of that is only available to those on my list. Also, make sure when you sign up to say hi. Let me know what your question is or where you heard about me, how you found me, what your interest is. Start building a relationship, because I'm a big fan of people building relationships. So don't be afraid to say hi. And I'll talk to all of you next week.